Hello everyone, welcome back to a brand new career mode series on FIFA 18. It's been a while, but today we start with a new challenge. I'm quickly gonna check if my audio is working correctly, and if it is, then we can start. Got a lot of explanation to do, so just hang in there, give me a minute, and I'll be right back with you. Alright, I can hear myself, and maybe you heard my echo there too, but that's totally fine. Um, so I'm gonna talk you guys through it and hang in there because there's going to be quite a lot of talking. If you're not interested in that, I get it, but then you're going to have to skip a whole lot because there's a lot of talking that we're going to do. First off, if you don't know my channel, I like to play older FIFAs, especially FIFA 18, one of my favorites, that and FIFA 16, I think, due to the gameplay, due to the era, the players at certain clubs, the challenges. Um, so yeah, I like to play it quite realistically. I've got my laptop in front of me, and I write like these documents about like football vision, about clubs, about at the time what I think they should have done in terms of transfers, about policy in a club. If we look at the history of a club, what does the club stand for? What is the club about? And from there on, I like to go into the challenge. So if you watched my channel before, you've seen that I've done a career mode with my hometown team, ADO Den Haag. Um, and we had some success there, obviously. I'm gonna twist the facts here a bit and say that due to the success in that career mode, where when I played it, we of course won the Eredivisie twice in 2 years. We won the cup once, and in the Europa League, we got to the last eight, I believe. We got knocked out by Napoli in a very scripted match. That still haunts me. It still hurts me, but it's quite realistic for Napoli to beat a smaller team like ADO. So I can live with it on paper. I just cannot live with the game itself. But I of course can let go of that. I don't mind. So let's just say that I didn't win Eredivisie to make it a bit more logical for me, the step to Forrest. I think if you've done well in Holland, the next step is obviously to go to a top five competition. Um, but assuming that I'm gonna do well there, then there will never be a chance really for me to go to, let's say, a championship team and a club that is in a championship team, a club that I think really suits the fallen giants, as what my career mode is about. Teams from big cities like Den Haag, one of the biggest cities in Holland, but also Nottingham Forest, one of the biggest clubs in England that was actually playing in the championship at the time. I think that's what I'm about to, bring these clubs back to where I think they belong. So Forest for me was an obvious choice. And after I've done really well with Den Haag, I think the story can continue at Forest because there will never be another moment. And I'm honestly, as a person, really intrigued by the Premier League. I think England got the best and biggest competition in the world, although nowadays it's becoming too much financial. But yeah, even at the time. And yeah, for me to go to a Premier League club, of course, is an option, but a chance like Forest, considering their reputation, their history, because that's what I'm about, is a career mode that I cannot refuse. So if we take a look at teams in the championship in the 17-18 season, there's quite a few interesting teams, if you ask me. It was hard for me to pick the right one. Aston Villa, for example, is really interesting. It's a great team. So that one was the first one that got my that draw my attention. Um, Fulham from London. I do like the club itself. I think there's some nice players in there too. So that was an interesting call as well. Um, I don't have really much with Leeds. Bielsa came in and he changed, I think, the philosophy of the club. Nonetheless, he's a very loved manager there. Middlesbrough is, of course, also one of the biggest sides, but I don't really have anything with Middlesbrough. Forest was one that spoke immediately to me, considering they're like one of the weaker sides. And yeah, for me, as an experienced FIFA player, these teams give me somewhat of a challenge, and I like that. If I just take Aston Villa, for example, I don't think I have much of a challenge in promoting for the Premier League. So yeah, that was an obvious call. And Sunderland also had a lot of my attention because I think Sunderland is a big team. I'm from the era where they used to play in the Premier League, so it would have been logical to pick them too. And that was also, of course, the really good Portuguese side of the Wolves. But yeah, for me, Forest was the one that drew my attention. So that's what I've invested in. If we would start a career mode with Forrest, and this is without really any changes to the squad, because I'll get back to that to you guys later. If we, for example, now take a look at all the teams in the championship with the current teams as it just started, all right? So we go by any team, and what is really important is the rating of the club or the rating of the teams and the financial status. Because I think that any team with a better rating than us or with a bigger transfer budget should basically end up above us if they, play their cards correctly. Of course, in FIFA you can beat those teams still quite easily sometimes, but that's the easiest way for me to measure where we stand compared to other teams. So before we load the career mode, because I cannot really see ratings there, I only see the stars, which does say something, but not the entire picture. So here we can see the numbers, right? And since I'm working on a document too, which I'm also going to continue the next few days, I like to record it as well for myself. So Villa are obviously miles ahead of us if we talk about rating. Barnsley is below us, that's for sure. Birmingham is a bit similar, even better you could say. Bolton is below us. Brentford is above us. So it's already 3 teams who should be ending up above us if we talk about quality. Bristol is a bit similar. I'd say we're better actually. Burton is below us. Cardiff is below us. Derby is definitely ahead of us. Fulham is definitely ahead of us. So that's 5 teams ahead of us. There's Hull. You could argue here, but I think they're ahead of us. It says defense 6-7, but with Dawson 75 there, and 71 Hector, I'd say they're better. So I count them 6. Ipswich is a bit similar. I don't count them better or weaker. I'd say Leeds are weaker because due to their striker up front. Middlesbrough are definitely ahead of us, so that's 7 teams. Millwall is below us. Norwich are ahead of us, 8. Reading, you could say they're ahead of us. I'm going to say similar, but you could say they're ahead of us. I'd say Sheffield is ahead of us, though. It's small, but they're ahead of us, I think. If you look at the stars, I think they got better squad depth. So that's 8 or 9 teams already. Sunderland definitely ahead of us. 9 teams for sure. And Wolves 10 teams ahead of us. There is 10 teams ahead of us if we talk about quality. And you could argue about 2 or 3 maybe, but that still makes about 7 teams better than us. Surely 7 teams. Well, if we were to look at the financial states of these teams as well, I think if both the quality and the financials are better, then they should be ending up above us, despite me playing. Villa is one of those teams. That's 1. I wouldn't say Birmingham is, no. Brentford is, that's 2. Derby is definitely 3. Fulham is definitely 4. Hull is 5 because their budget is way bigger than us. Middlesbrough is 6. The weird thing is they already signed Brit Asombalonga from us and they still have 20 million, which is odd. I think the game didn't really take that into consideration when they created it. But yeah, the funds are there, so the computer can use it. So that's 6 teams. Norwich 7 teams. Sheffield, massive budget as well. 8 teams. Sunderland 9 teams. And Wolves 10 teams. There is simply 10 teams ahead of us if we simply look at budget and the quality that they already have in the team. They're simply ahead of us in terms of having both those 2 in their advantage, and that's currently the only way I can measure it. I could also look at the way they play, but there's no guarantee in me beating them. Every game is a game on its own. If I get a red card, it might influence my chances. If I have to play 2 games in a week and I have to rotate my squad, the second team might not get the same result as the first team, because I just don't have the same quality on the pitch. So for me, it's rather obvious that Nottingham Forest is a proper challenge here. It's a proper challenge because I'm facing teams that are better than me. This one's just going to be a simple simulation file. We're going to play on world class, 5 minutes. I'm not even going to do anything about this except the current customized. Um, this is simply just to show you what the expectations are if we don't make any changes to the team. The context of this career mode is that in the 17-18 season, as you might recall, if you're a bit of an older person like me, above 20 or so, you know that the club sold Brit Assombalonga to Middlesbrough for a record fee of about 17 million euros or 15 million euros, something about. And that is, we can actually see, yeah, you see these are the pre-season tournaments. I'm not really doing much with them because this is just to show you guys what the expectations of the board are without me making any transfers or any changes to the team. So this is the team that you're having. And here you see the players. There is a few changes, as you can see. There is, for example, Matt Target, and there is Harry Wilson, and he has this picture, and I just don't know why he has this picture. This is a bug in the game that they give pictures to players you create yourself. So I don't know what it is about, but that's something I simply cannot get around. So the expectations from the board are not going to be exactly one-on-one, since of course the servers are not working anymore, and if I reset the squad, I lose all the players that I even created myself. But if we take Matt Target and Harry Wilson out of the equation, this is what the board probably would say. So I'm hoping that they don't say anything because of these two wonder kids being in the team. Here, you just want to go here. So this is what they want for the youth, basically, and of course these goals change every time you load up a save file, but just to get an impression of what they want. So they want you to sign a striker, which is interesting. This is what I think is most interesting right now. If I don't make any customizations to the game, to the squad, they'd say to me, finish mid-table, which I think is reasonable because, I mean, as I mentioned, there was 10 teams better than us, both financially and quality-wise. So even if we beat all the teams that are on our level, mid-table is reasonable because there's 24 teams, I believe. So mid-table is like 12 plays, 13 plays. That's if we beat all the teams that are worse than us and all the teams that are on our level. And that is a bit ambitious, but also I think not too ambitious. It's not crazy. It's really doable. The FA Cup is a bit interesting because the round of 32 stage is quite far into the tournament, and they want to fight for promotion, right? So interesting. I think interesting goals. However, this is where where we're going to change things. We're going to change the budget, or well, not change the budget. We're going to change the team, and I'll show you guys why. The transfer of Brit Assombalonga, if we look at Middlesbrough, raised a lot of money for the team. And the weird thing is they already had Braithwaite, and he's really good in this game. So why they signed Assombalonga, I don't know, really. In real life, of course, he got his goals and that, so I understand in real life why they signed him, but still, they had Braithwaite, who wasn't horrible, I think. At least if I look at his profile here. But the transfer was mainly used to cover the financial fair play issues of Nottingham Forest at the time. The club wasn't really financially sustainable, let's just put it that way. And, well, that transfer opened a few doors for the club to sign some players. The club signed Daryl Murphy from Newcastle for a fee of about 2 point something million. I think 2.5 million or 2.2 million or something. No, my bad, it's 2.3 million, I believe. Well, I would have said to the board, don't sign him. Don't waste the money on him. Leave him at Newcastle, that's where he was at the time. The club signed Barry McKay for less than 1 million, I believe almost 900k. Considering his profile, considering his age, there's some promise to him. So for the money they signed him, I'm not going to say don't do it, right? I think it's a bargain. The club also signed, let's see, Darikwa. It's a back from Burnley, a very physical one, and a very decent player. He cost him about 1 million, and I would have said, you know what, continue that business. I think that's a good profile that you're having here, an interesting target, and I think he can, do the job for us. So I would definitely want to keep that alive and sign him. Another player they signed is Jason Cummings from Hibernian in Scotland, and that's one player that I would say don't do it. I don't think he's going to add what we're looking for. So we save ourselves with the transfer of Murphy and Cummings. 2.3 million plus 1.1 million makes 3.4 million in transfers. We did sign the request deal, so that's a transfer I wouldn't have changed. I would have said to the board, loan Matt Target, because in real life he would have been loaned to Fulham from Southampton, and then he would be going back to there. And I would say to the board, loan Harry Wilson. And those who are sharp of you, I would say, well, you probably noticed that Harry Wilson was loaned out in the winter of the 17-18 season to Hull City and not to us. But he was already on the radar of some teams due to the fact that he was loaned out in 15-16 already when he was quite young. He was loaned out to Crew Alexandra in, I think, is it the League 2? Must be EFL League 1 then. No, it's League 2, my bad. Crew Alexandra. Yeah. So clubs already knew about him, and if not, if he didn't make his debut, he was still in youth academies that people could have seen and scouted him. But I would say to the board, try to get these two in with a buy option, a quite high buy option because they're quite big talents at their clubs. I get that. But I think if we had a buy clause of 5 million for Matt Target and 5 million for Harry Wilson, or maybe I would say 10 million for Harry Wilson because I think he was a bigger talent at the time. I think you have probably a shot at Liverpool and at Southampton, and if you give them a buyback clause, especially, even better, let's say in percentage. So if the player is worth 40 million in 3 years, they can sign him for like 50% of that, And so they have like a bigger chance than other clubs because they can get him cheaper. And I wouldn't say let's do a fee, because if you say a fee, I mean the player might be much more worth after 1 or 2 years with the club, and you only get like a fraction of it. So that's why I say to the board, get a buyback clause to these clubs if they don't want to sell them to us, to still convince them, but make it like a percentage fee and not a fee which is like a fast amount of money, because that might hurt us actually more in the long run. That's 2 transfers that I would have said change that, but that's not everything. You could argue with me that those 2 fees are like a lot of money together, 15 million, which is money that Forrest didn't have at the time. But we only pay it if we promote to the Premier League within 1 or 2 seasons. So we loan them for 1 or 2 seasons each. Speak about a certain amount of minutes they get at the team, certain amount of games. And if we promote, we're going to sign them for that amount of money we've spoken of. You will get a buyback clause of this percentage of the transfer fee that the player has in that year, whatever you're going to sign him, until we extend their contract. Then, of course, the clause falls away. But we're still open to negotiate because you have like the first right to buy them back. So we give both Liverpool and Southampton really good prospects that if they want the player back, they can get the player back, but due to a fair amount for us as well. That way, I think we could convince both Liverpool and Southampton to loan these players to us. And considering my reputation, where I give a lot of youth players, players at Al Den Haag a chance, the selection that I worked with, everybody had a role, everybody played a lot. I think that speaks trust to these clubs that we are, a good place for them to develop. So there's no guarantees, but obviously I have my talk ready and I know, how to approach these clubs and these players, which I think should give us the advantage above other clubs. But that's not all the transfers we're making. if you know the history, you know that in the 16-17 season, at the end of it, in May, so that's, what is it, May 2017, Evangelos Marinakis joined Nottingham Forest. And as he joined Nottingham Forest, because he became their new owner, his Greek influences straight went to the club. And with that, I mean to say that goalkeeper from Olympiacos, Stefanos Capino, would join Nottingham Forest on a free. Yes, his contract was expiring within 1 year at Olympiacos, but he was still quite a good goalkeeper, only 23 years old. As I had talks with Marinakis, who of course, had multiple targets for the coaching position, spoken with a bit, and eventually I would become his choice. The first thing we do is we look at the team from Nottingham Forest. What do we have, and where can we strengthen the squad? We just sold Asambalonga, our striker. Most of the money is used to cover the finances of the club because we had problems with financial fair play. But at the same time, what are players that were transfer free and are possibilities for us, or players that are going to be loaned out? So the first thing I do with Marinakis is we're looking at the team, and you see this is the team. Well, you see a lot of players here that don't really have a high rating, a lot of long-serving players. And if we make it an easier view for us, if we go to edit teams and we go to club transfers, we go to Forest and we sort them. Let's see if I can do that, sort. And we have it now on position. You'll see we have 3 goalkeepers. And honestly speaking, Henderson is of a decent level. Jordan Smith is a player from our own youth. And one of my key points as I'm talking with the club board and Marinakis is to get these youth players to be the core of this team. Because I want to have a very UK-sided Forest. I want to keep the identity of the club alive, to win the fans for us, for the older fans to recognize the club still. Because Forest is about, what's the right word for it? I think there's it's obviously a lot of history at Forest, right? And I'm quickly checking. Yeah, the word that I'm looking for, I think that describes it best, is solid. Forest is a club about hard working, about solid players, about recognizable style, about proud. And of course, Nottingham is a bit near the more industrial sides of, let's say, Liverpool, the harbour, Manchester, of course, the factories. So it's a bit more from that side of England. And yeah, I think that a club like that, with that proud history, with youth, with winning the what's it called? The Champions League, before it was the Champions League, that name. I can't get the name of it now. The Europa Cup one, I believe. It's a club with a lot of history and, I would say foundations that they stuck with and that I respect. So I want to keep that core alive. I would say, of course, Eftimov is a third goalie. And yeah, maybe a long-term one, but I would say we need a shot stopper in the team, someone who can save points for us, like David De Gea does at Man United, who were absolutely terrible, but week in, week out, he saves the club from dropping points. And yes, there was an era where even De Gea made some errors, but he still saved so many points for United. I think most important in goal is to have always to rely on a good shot stopper. That's the most important part. So if we can get a goalkeeper to strengthen us, that'd be great. Well, I can show you guys the options that I have for goalkeepers, and there is quite some really. I've done a lot of research in this. You probably wouldn't say, but I've done a lot of research in this. And if we look at my list of goalkeepers, again, believe me, I looked at a lot of names who I think fit the club. Let's say, for example, Tom Heaton. He was at Burnley at the time, Premier League team. Too expensive for us. Too expensive for us. I can already tell you that. There is Fraser Forster from Southampton. Again, a Premier League goalkeeper. Why would he go to, let's say, a team from the championship who are not even the best in the league, so you don't know if they're even going to promote. That's a step back, and that's just not reliable. Ben Forster, sorry, my bad, Ben Forster is a bit older than them. He was on his retour. He was going to be less good, but he was still at West Brom. He was an important player, important player under Tony Pulis. He would be financially hard to get, but it is possible. But yeah, I mean, he wouldn't. I don't think it would be realistic to get him at that point. There's other goalkeepers, like, for example, you think of my Dutch, how do I say it? My past with Den Haag, that there's definitely like a few goalkeepers from the Eredivisie that I might want to sign, and there is. I think we faced a few good goalkeepers in that career mode. One of them was Warner Haan, who in FIFA and in real life had a good period where he looked very decent. The game says he came from for 6 million to Heerenveen, which is not true. That's just the value he represents in the game. There was Brad Jones at Feyenoord, but in the 16-17 season, he would be Eredivisie winner, so he won the league with Feyenoord. So despite his age and his financial part, which he's, yeah, if we look at it, we could get him. But since he just became champions with Feyenoord, it doesn't make sense for him to go play either Champions League and Eredivisie with Feyenoord or go to the second league of England. He would probably stay for another year before he would leave, you know. Another good goalkeeper in Holland was Sergio Pat. Represents also a lot of value, but he would be too expensive for us. I wouldn't say he would be too good for us, but in game he's just too expensive for us. If we look at the hero from nowadays, Mats Sels, Mats Sels, he would be loaned out to Anderlecht. I could of course say, okay, he wouldn't be loaned out, but yeah, I mean, he was already going to Anderlecht at the time, and since he's Belgium, I think that makes sense. So most of the good options are just not an option for us. Wayne Hennessy is a goalkeeper, which is an option. He ain't the best, but he was already another team. I think I write his name wrong, but I don't know what I'm writing wrong. Oh, probably double N in it. Yeah, there you go. Hennessy would be an option. You could also say Craig Gordon, the goalkeeper at Celtic, is an option, also a bit older, 34 years old. You could say Darren Randolph is an option, but he just recently joined Middlesbrough, where he done really well, I believe. Well, at least I always thought he done well. You could say Marshall. Marshall is an option. David Marshall. Hull City signed him, despite already having McGregor in the ranks too, another Scottish goalkeeper who is just 2 years older. So always found it a bit weird, but that is an option too. So we really looked at options, and the fact is just that most of them are too expensive, too good. They just joined the club or whatever. Of course, I could just make some changes to the team, but the truth is, most of them were just simply too good for us. Except, however, in real life, Capino really did join for this 17-18 season at Forrest. And although he might not have done the job that you expect him if we look at his rating here in FIFA, truth is he's the best that we can get. And he also came for free, so I'd be stupid not to take him. He came from Marinakis' network, and yeah, he's a massive quality impulse, despite not really having to pay for him. So I cannot refuse that option, you know, I have to take that. Simple as that. That's the first customization I'm making. Then we go to the second customization I'm making. There is this centre back from Celtic. You might know who I'm talking about straight away. It is Erik Sviatchenko, a Danish centre back. And he would be loaned out in this season to Danish side Midtjylland from, of course, Denmark, as I try to say. And that's quite odd if you look at his rating and look what he's about. But yeah, sometimes FIFA is just wrong about his ratings. He would be loaned out here, and I would say to the board, you know, we just sold Asombalonga. Let's try and assign him with a buy option if we promote. If we don't promote, we don't have to do the buy option. But if we promote, Of course, there's TV rights in England. So if you promote, you get like 100 million plus. Um, Simply TV rights. So if we promote, we take him for, let's say, 5 million or 7.5 million. That way, Celtic will get a massive fee for him that they will not get if he goes to Midtjylland loaned out, because he's only gonna lower his value unless he has an amazing season. And with us, you have a bigger chance of him promoting and getting 7.5 million within 1 or 2 seasons. So I think again that's where we could beat them, and we only pay if we promote. If we don't promote, we don't pay. So it's like a, how do you say it, a demanded buy option. If we promote, we have to buy him. There's no turning back there. But if we do, I mean, of course we have the budget there for him too, right? So Celtic will definitely have a better chance if they loan him out to us, and again we make sure he plays. The next change that I'm going to make was Matt Target, loan him. I already explained to you guys how that would work, so I'm going to pass on that. We go to the next one, and that's a central midfielder. And if we look at the team, also I should have done that before we transferred Sviatchenko, but no worries. My bad. We need to have this one club transfers, Forrest. Let's sort on the position. So here, if we look at centre backs, we just got Sviatchenko to the team, who is 73 rated. There is, of course, Mancina. I'm not sure if I pronounced his name correctly. He's 72 rated, but except for that, all other defenders are not as good as centre backs. So it's a quality impulse, despite not really costing us anything, because he's loaned. So it makes a lot of sense for me to pick him there. And for the club to sign him, because with the transfer of Asombalonga, we definitely have some space at least to loan players. I mean, that doesn't have to cost much money. Now, Matt Target was also an option. Left back we loaned there, and we only have Traore in the team, so it makes sense for us to get a double cover there, because we're going to play a lot of games in this season. Championship is really intensive, and there's like 2 games a week is a normal thing. If we look at central defensive midfielders, you've seen it there. We don't really have good central midfielders. I accidentally pressed the button, but here you can see there's Vaughan, 69. He's 34 years old. There's Cohen, a long-serving player of the club. Doesn't have sprint speed, but except for that, he looks really decent. But yeah, he's already 30 years of age as well. So it's not, we're not at the best position there anymore. A player that, again, is from Marinakis' network, is a player that went from, what's the team called, Nantes, to Olympiacos, and his name is Guillaume Chilet. I'm not sure if I pronounced his first name correctly there, but I believe his last name is Chilet. And since we also lack some older players, and the players that we have are not in quality, great players, I would say, in real life he went from Nantes to Olympiacos for 1 million. I would say to Marinakis, we could really use him, and at your team you still have plenty of midfielders still. Tercidis, they signed him for 900k from Torino. Martins, Ramayo, Siopis we've seen there. So I think, and here Ojofu, Fortuna's attacking midfielder, I would say, get him to us for 1 or 2 seasons, and then you speak with him. You let him go to Olympiacos anyway, and that way we still buy him for like 1 million. But instead, from going to Olympiacos, he's sort of loaned out to us for 1 or 2 years before he heads there. As you have seen in our team, we didn't really have any attacking midfielders. We didn't have much creativity. There was one player, oh, my bad, I need to sort them on position. There is, of course, Clough. He looks decent. I can't deny that. But except for him, it's mainly wingers and not really creative ones. So that's why I would have said loan Harry Wilson. He can play on the wing. Right winger, left winger, or attacking midfield. I think he can play all 3 of that. So that's another option. And of course we need to give him minutes. But I wouldn't stick with that. No, I would still get another player too, and that player is no other. And I guess you guys know him, since I wanted to have like a UK-sided um, Nottingham Forest. The player was loaned out by Sporting Lisbon. Ryan Gold, the Scottish Messi, is what he was labelled at, and I would say that it would be easier for him to adjust to the Championship than to go to a team where he probably will struggle to show his game, because I mean, Philadelphia's are not that great of a team, are they? So with him, I would say give Sporting Lisbon a 10 million buy option. He will play a certain amount of matches with us, and we will have to pay that amount of money if we promote. If we don't promote, you get him back. Simple as that, because we simply cannot buy him then. So there we go. He also joins the team. That gives us a lot more creativity. Then there's two more transfers, two more adjustments that we're going to make. The first one is a player that left Forest 1 year earlier, and it's a right winger. Let's see, if we go to club transfers, we go to Forest, we sort the team again. You'll see that there's Harry Wilson for the wing, there's Osborne for the wing. That's two very decent options there already. We also signed McKay, that's the third option. But another player that we could have had is Oliver Burke. And this one you might call unrealistic, but I do have an explanation on this one. And that is rather simple. Leipzig signed Oliver Burke from Nottingham Forest in the 16-17 season for 15.2 million, which is a lot of money. Forest couldn't refuse that. He went to Leipzig. He couldn't really meet the expectations. And 1 year later, Oliver Burke was loaned out back to an English side, this time to West Brom. And West Brom had a 15.2 million sign option for him. So Leipzig didn't lose a euro on him. They signed him for 15.2 and they loaned him out and sold him for 15.2. I would say to Leipzig, why don't you loan him out back to us? It's a lower level, so it's easier for him to do well with us. He's familiar with the club. So again, that's two things to go in his favor and get a better season. Because I mean, he didn't meet the expectations in Germany highest league, so why would he do in the English highest league, especially at a team that plays relegation football? With us, he has a fair chance in the middle of the league. Next to that, we're also paying the 15.2 million back if we promote. So in that way, we are equal to West Brom. However, the player probably wants to play Premier League too, which makes sense, despite maybe not getting as much game time. And there's the difference that I would make. I would say to Leipzig as well, the loan fee that we're going to pay here is going to be quite big, so you get a certain amount of money. And then even if we don't, promote to the Premier League, you still got a few million. And then if you sell him, you still get like 10 million at least, because he's still quite young. So that way they still almost get the financials. And yeah, at Burke, for Burke, it's going to be a bit of a 50-50, but I would try to get Leipzig to push towards us. And I personally have to get Burke over the line here to choose for us, assuming that I have. He joins us. And that brings me to the last option, the last player that we wanted to strengthen our team, and that is a striker. And again, we're going to take a look at Forrest. We did not sign Murphy, and we did not sign Jason Cummings. So if we look at the strikers, these are the options that we have. They're not really the best ones. A young Brereton Diaz, very promising with his stats. Velios, a bit of a target man, target forward. Walker, young player, and Ward, who in his profile looks actually not even that bad, although he's a bit older as well. But I would say, since we didn't sign our strikers, a player that was transfer free and made a weird transfer in my eyes, a really weird transfer, was Jamie McLaren. And Jamie McLaren in this FIFA is quite a decent player. Um, this is not him, I was just checking who that was. And I believe in real life he went to German side, German second level side, so Bundesliga 2. Was it Bielefeld? No, it was Darmstadt. Why would you go to the second level of Germany with this profile, with that age, if you can get to England's second level, which I think is a lot more interesting than Germany's second level, despite it's one of the better teams in second level and your chance of promotion are bigger. Whilst if you go to us, and considering my reputation and the transfer that we made, is a very promising, how do you say it, a very promising step, because there's a lot to happen at Forrest. Next to that, in Australia he speaks English. I think the circumstances in England are closer to home than they are in Germany, where you don't speak the language. So I think for him it's way easier to adjust in our team, in our league, than it is in Germany. Really is. So I'd hope that together with convincing him, together with the board, go to us, mate, transfer free. I mean, it's a more logical move, isn't it? So these transfers definitely change our prospects in terms of the league. Because if we look at team sheets now, we're labeled a 3.5-star team. And despite the attacking midfield defensive ratings not really changing, if we would line up these players, it would definitely change the rating of the team. For a few of these players that we loaned, of course, we have buy options, and I counted it all together, it's about 50 million euros or 50 million pounds. So if we don't promote, the club is going to lose all these players back to their team, and the club is going to lose a lot of quality there, which of course, together with firing me, is going to be a massive gamble for the club. I get that. On the other hand, it doesn't cost them financially anything to loan them, except for Oliver Burke. That's the only one we probably had to pay for to loan him. So I don't think it's a bad business at all to do what we have just done here for the Forest board with owner Marinakis, who wants Forest to be valuable. Putting these players in really didn't cost that much, only wages. It makes a lot of sense to, actually do these businesses that we have done. So we're going to accept, again, load it in, current customized, and let's see what the board says now in terms of goals. How much do they expect us now, financially, to, let's say, save in wages, but also about the table. Do they want us to promote? Do they want us to end up high in the table? What do they expect? Is there a change in the pre-season tournament if we look at how much can be earned? You see, there's like one step up. There's a tournament of 4 million now. I believe the other one we didn't have that. So we have an opportunity to go more expensive here. Then if we go here and we go to the board and expectations, vision expectations, gain automatic promotion, that's quite a different goal than end up in the middle of the table. So they definitely analyzed the squad and seen, okay, you're better than that. FA Cup is still the same goal, but you see that it changes a lot there for us. Anyway, that's the transfers I wanted to take you guys through. Like, that's the customizations we've made. We analyzed the squads, Marinakis, the board, and I did together. And if we look at the team sheets, we've seen that, well, there's possibilities for us to strengthen the squad. We wanted to make some changes here and there, and it could easily be done without having to pay for transfers by just loaning these players or getting them transfer free. So I think that right now the team looks in a way better. I wouldn't say shape. I don't think that's entirely fair, but as simple as this, just more quality in the team. And it, again, didn't cost us really anything. Burke as well here, so yeah, we have like a way better team. Next step is, because we got most of these players, you know, to just strengthen the squad. I didn't even talk about a playing style. Often you get players that fit your playing style, because otherwise, what are you doing with your money and with your time? But getting McLaren, for example, was a very logical fit because we needed a new striker and the club wanted to sign either Daryl Murphy and Jason Cummings. And I just say, get McLaren, he's free. If you look at creativity, there was Klopp, but there was no one to compete with him. So Gold gives us a second option, and it makes sense, right? With our tight schedule. If we look at the right wing, they signed McKay. He can play left wing, right wing. But behind him, what are your options, right? So if we look here, I mean, there was Lika, but he would leave the club in real life. So I would say, you know, with Burke and Wilson, you cover both your wings too. So that's indirect transfers for the season already that don't cost us a thing except for wages. With Gillette, we get a new midfielder in the team, also a more experienced player. Again, that's a really big plus for us. We get a centre back, which is in quality better than what we have. And we get a goalkeeper, which we needed because we needed a quality impulse. So without really talking formations and tactics, these were transfers that were the sort of mandatory for the balance of the squad, the amount of players that you need to have, but also quality impulses to the team anyway. So it makes sense for, I think, all of these players to sign them. You could argue, yeah, but Gillette is older, he doesn't give much value to the squad, you know, he's not going to be there for long, he's not going to perform well again, he's older, blah, blah, blah. Maybe, but it's still a better player than we had there, so I think it could still be defended. Well, that's a transfer that I wanted to make for the team. Other transfers that I want to make are going to be done into the career mode itself, because I'm actually gonna have to sign them. The last thing I want to speak to you guys with is the change of stadium for me for Nottingham Forest. In the game, they get the Forest Park Stadium, which is from all options not the one that looks most like the real deal. If you look it up on Google Maps, the pictures of it, or you watch Premier League sometimes, you have seen that, for example, there's two stadiums here which look way better. For me, the East Point Arena, it looks like, especially if you look at the far side of this move-in picture, really looks like to one side of the stadium in real life. And there's also, was it Ivy Lane? Ivy Lane, I believe. That also really looks like one side of the Forest Stadium, due to the opening and the scoreboard in between of those two stands. Because on one side of the Forest Stadium, that's also a thing. So it was really hard for me to find the right one, but I kind of prefer the East Point Arena. So that's what we will be using in the career mode. And now it's time to properly load the career mode up. So as you can see, there's a lot of pressure for me and goals of the club in the career mode because they want us to gain automatic promotion. The budget didn't change. The quality of our team did. So we have taken that into account. But despite our transfers, I still say that the 10 other teams we've seen before still don't have a disadvantage on us. I still think they got more chances because maybe the quality of the teams is the same, but their budget is still bigger than ours. So I still say that they have the advantage over us. I really do. This is the manager we're going to pick, and I really like the tie because it really, you know, fits with Forrest, their colors. So that's for me the most logical one to go with, since I can't customize it anyway. We will be playing all world class, 5 minutes a half. We will be using pounds sterling to pay. We're going to change the stadium, despite its already fitting name, Forest Park Stadium, which I really liked. We're going to go to the East Point Arena, and we're going to call this the City Park, isn't it called? Although I think Forest Park Arena is way better. I really, really like the name. City Ground, it's called, right? City Ground from Nottingham. The City Ground. I hate to do this, but I'm gonna have to call it City Ground for the realism of the career mode. Apply and exit. Exit. We're gonna use the current customized European competition first season, yes, with the teams that qualified, and this we're gonna leave it since we won't be participating anyway. Just confirm the changes. Well, we're gonna keep that on because we want to make transfers anyway. We're going to go to advance. Alright, first thing we're going to do is we're going to make a save file and we're going to call it Career Manager. I'm not sure if it fits, so I might have to change this. Not Forrest. Let's see how many characters we have left. And we're going to call it Season 1. Alright, let's just do that. Let's just save that. This one is going to be a bit strange, but if you analyzed how this game worked, then you have seen that you can actually influence your pre-season tournament group. I'm going to accept and go to the invite. And we're looking for a group where we're going to play Scottish teams, because I think for a championship team to measure with Scottish teams, especially Rangers and Celtic, I would be really happy with or pleased with. Also, Basel and Young Boys are really nice opponents because it's a bit of challenging teams. Copenhagen is a challenging team there, but that's what we're looking for. So I'm going to simulate this a couple of times just to get the group that we want, and I really, really want Celtic or Rangers in our group. That's really a demand for me. So we'll do this. It says all changes will be lost, and that's exactly what we want. Because if we now go to load career and we load up that save file we just made, it will give us the invite again, and now with other teams. Again, we don't get the one that we want or a group that we want that meets my, I wouldn't say demands, but my wishes. So we just go again, and this can take some time. I know it can. There's nothing I can do to fasten this process up, to get it done faster. But this one is decent. There's Dutch teams in there, which makes it really nice for me to do this one. Also the teams from Swiss, the top teams. Dynamo Moscow is also an interesting team. So I wouldn't have mind playing this one, but I really, really hope to play Celtic or Rangers, but especially Celtic. So again, I'm gonna say no to it. I don't mind facing Dutch teams too, although I've already faced them a lot in my career mode with Den Haag. So I rather not. But if there's Dutch teams in there too, I don't, it will be better than something that I just don't like at all. This one looks really nice with Belgium teams too, which I also think is a nice level to compete with for us, with our transfers. So I wouldn't have said no to this group in general, but yeah, as I mentioned before, I really, really want to play Scottish teams because I don't think there's any other chance for me to face them really, except for Europa League or Champions League, and that is something I don't have influence on. And that's something we won't be playing for the first 2 seasons, even if I do a 3rd season. So yeah, it's simply not an option. Here we are with Celtic in a group, but I don't like the rest of the whole tournament. So unfortunately for me, that's not it. Shame, shame. If Rangers was in our group too, then I would have considered it. but they're not, so we go again. Don't really matter which one I choose anyway. We already made a lot of transfers and customizations to the team, but that doesn't mean that we won't be making transfers anymore. There's still things I want to change. But I already given sorry, my bad. I already given 9 players to our team with automatic transfers. So to change the whole core of the team is a bit much in my eyes. That is not something I want to do either. And before every career mode, I always try to play one where I also put things on my channel just to see how it goes as well. It's for me a trial bit of the career mode. This one looks decent, but there's no Celtic in here. And if there was, it would have probably been in the other group. So I'm gonna deny this one. But yeah, we still want to make transfers to the team, and that's the next thing we're gonna be talking about. And that's something that also takes some time because I want to show you some targets I have for each position. For example, like we did with the goalkeepers a few minutes back. I showed you guys a lot of my targets. We didn't really put scout reports on them, but if you do your research, you will see that they're like 80 rated or 78 rated or whatever. And I already explained that it's not realistic for us to get these players already because they're either too expensive, they either play in the Premier League already. Why would they go do a step, downwards already? They're earning more there, they're playing in the best competition, they're probably making minutes. It don't really make sense since it's not us being, let's say, Manchester City and gaining a lot of money, and from there on we, build up again. So we don't really have anything to offer, not financially, not sportively, because we just don't meet in the same level. You could argue about players that are shown that are from our level, Craig Gordon, for example, um, Marshall, Alan McGregor. That are options that I could consider. But then again, with Capino, we had the best target we could have. Like he was the best out of the list. He wasn't my personal choice, but if he's available, then it was definitely the best that we could do. And then I'm not gonna be stupid about it. Then of course I'm gonna say yes, let's take him. Again, just horrible choices, these tournaments. I haven't seen Celtic too many times in there. I think we have seen them 3 times in about, what is it, 9 simulations at the moment. And they've only been in our group once. So you'll see that it's not that easy for us to get best group. And the fact that I don't see the Scottish teams again in there doesn't please me. If we talk transfers, because I'm already gonna do that and go ahead of my program here since we're stuck in here in this part. Let's see. Again, nothing. We want to sign a backup striker, and I always like to sign a backup striker which has a profile of a target man, someone who is really strong in the air, especially, but also physically, someone you can bring in as a pinch hitter, like last 20 minutes of the game, bring in someone who can force something, throw in high balls, throw in crosses, and he can actually beat defenders there. Play him into his feet and he can actually hold a ball. I'm not looking for someone to run deep because usually in the last minutes, if you're behind, if you're trailing, then you want something to force. And if you have like really fast players, that's nice, but that's not really the best thing to have in that situation since the opponent is that team is probably be defending and closing down the spaces. Um, and my experience as a footballer is that in those last minutes, uh, get as many players in the box, throw crosses in, you know, make it difficult for these opponents you're facing, and sometimes the ball lands in a scramble and everybody's everywhere. And then these strikers, like let's say Luis Suarez, who are always on the right place, or players like who are strong in the air and taller, like Wout Weghorst, for example, those are players that can always score in those situations. So you either need someone who's a really annoying striker with really good positioning and always getting these sort of clutch goals, or get someone like way taller and more physical to force that goal in. So that's yeah, that's a serious target we're looking at. Serious profile we're looking at. My bad. Um, and for that, I have many options. Daryl Murphy was not even a bad option there, but there's players I think out there who are better to do the job. So we'll see what we can get there. I cannot really make any promises. Funny how we both face a Dutch team in Group A and Group C there. But again, not what we want. And at this pace, it will take a lot of time. In fact, it will take so much time that I don't think we'll be playing many games. If we even decide to play games. Damned. Why do we not get these Scottish teams? We've seen a lot of variation here, but not really anything that I was looking for. Doesn't really matter what I choose. Also for this save file, I've made a document with what I call homework, where I analyze the club, look at its history, look at the team, look at the change we want to make. I've been over it already so far, but yeah, that's something that I do, and that takes quite a lot of hours before you start a career mode. But anybody who plays realistically like me and talks about board and vision, I do recommend to do it like that, because it gives you way more insight in a club than not doing it, and it opens your eyes to, I think, new possibilities in sense of more realism as well. About a bigger picture, I think the holistic picture of managing a club. We did see Rangers now once and then in the groups, but it's not enough for me. I want to have at least my part of the group, and this is like the odd one where you play 3 opponents that are next to you in the group. Yeah, I want to have like a really nice group with 3 nice teams, like this one: Basel, Heerenveen, Young Boys. I take that. I take that group. But again, it had to be 2 Scottish sides. If we didn't get the Swiss sides, but the Scottish sides and Heerenveen, I probably would have taken it, despite the bottom 4 not being interesting teams. But you only face them maybe twice in the semi and in the final, so I could have lived with that. There's a few players in the team that I'm not certain of keeping or trading, and it really depends also on the bids that we're gonna get. It's something that I'm gonna have to do the homework for the next episode. One of those players is Henderson, the goalkeeper. This group is nice though, but it's not it. And I think Henderson would have been, or could be, an interesting one for us. Wait, did I even put all the transfers in into the club? I feel like I forgot someone, and it just, gets to me. Oh my god, I think I missed out on the player. It's weird how I just, someone out of the blue, just thought of him. as I look at the Rangers badge, club transfers, there was another a player in Scotland. Um, I think he was at Aberdeen. Was it, or did I already put him at Rangers? I'm not sure. Ryan Jack, yeah. It's another player. He would have gone to Rangers transfer free, and I would have said to the board, trying to get him in there at us. I mean, Rangers does, of course, compete for the title, but in Forrest, I think you have with especially the lot of Scottish players that we have in the team, I think it would be, a nicer challenge for him. Since I managed to, still think of that, that does give me a chance of loading this again. It's a bit of extra work, but it's not much, as we've been over it last time, and I know what to put in. I'm actually glad that I kind of thought of him after the laptop in front of me. I don't know how I missed him, but I managed to think of it at the right moment still. And I think it's also because of the switching I done in between the career mode and then looking at the players and then switching back. I think that's why it happened. Well, we've been over this, so let's not mess this up. The city grounds. Okay, so now it's all done still. Of course, you could say, why do this career mode? Because Forrest, still done well in real life. At least now they're Premier League team. They invested in players. Last year with Nuno Espirito Santos, they had an amazing year. So, there was no need to play this one. Facts, that's true. But I could have helped them earlier and keep a bit more identity. Unluckily, we did still not get the right, what's it called, the right selection of teams for our tournament. So that's a bit of a shame. I just hope it doesn't take too much time still, because I think I've had quite a long day that I won't be really playing games this episode. I was looking forward to, but I don't think it's gonna happen. This one is interesting, really interesting, because if we look at the group, it's actually the lowest in money, which I don't like. But if you look at the group, Genk is a nice opponent for us, I think. Getafe, I don't really have anything with, and I'm against them due to Bordelas, their manager. But Celtic is in there too, so we play Genk and Celtic. And in the other group is AZ, Young Boys, Basel, Montpellier. It's close, but I think I'm gonna say no. It's a nice group, but I want at least Rangers in that too instead of someone. I kind of regret doing that, but at the same time I don't, because I just needed a little bit more there. That was the closest thing we had to, yeah, to my wishes, I think so far. Because it was really a nice group, except for like one or two teams. I was really happy with everything. Yeah, I see Rangers in there. I could still be doing this tomorrow too, but I don't feel like we can really close this career mode off without me doing this. Um, and I say tomorrow, but I don't even know if I'm gonna be playing tomorrow. But next time, I mean. what's annoying is that you don't know if the next time is going to be any better. Sometimes you get one or two scoreless teams, and then the next 5 times you don't get any of them. So it could just be the pick of one. It's really hard to say it's going to take 5 more minutes or 10 more minutes or half an hour. Simply cannot say. Simply cannot say. You don't know if you're getting closer to what you want or not. I'm thinking if there's more things that I can share with you guys about this career mode. I already told you about the profile striker we're looking to have as a backup to McLaren. I don't want to give too much away because otherwise next episode won't have that much coverage to talk about. But I feel like I've been over most of this career mode about vision, about board expectations, about how I give in into the short term, about transfers, so the tactical part as well, the financial part. I don't want to give away too much about transfers yet, about all our targets. I've been over most of the positions yet that we want to strengthen or where we can strengthen. So yeah, there's not much that I think I can share still. In real life today, I've seen that Haaland scored again for Norway as they're on course en route to the World Cup for the first time in quite a long time, I believe. And he scored 50 goals now in 46 appearances, so that's more goals than appearances. You could argue that, of course, since he plays for Norway, the opponents that he's facing is like more of the level of Norway, so a bit less good teams compared to, let's say the bigger teams in Europe. But nonetheless, it's still impressive numbers considering his age too. And he scored 16 goals in his last 9 games for Norway. His last international appearances. That is incredible. That is Cristiano Ronaldo-alike numbers. But then again, Cristiano Ronaldo did the Champions League and that against, I think, better teams than Haaland is doing it. Still impressive though, because to even match the number of Ronaldo or Messi is impressive, is out of this world basically, because no one can do it. Thing is only that Messi and Ronaldo do it against no matter what opponent, and that makes them sensational. Football has become football became more tactical, more physical, because in the time of Pele and whatever, the footballers weren't the footballers that they were today. In some way, I think they were better, maybe technical or in some way gifted. But if we talk about football nowadays, we talk about athletes, about players that train every day and every week. Think of their body, think of the way they live in, think of their sleep different, the training different. So I would argue that today's football is harder than football in the past. I think so, yeah. Simply because the game itself has developed into a world where so many young boys want to become a pro footballer that there's much more competition for it. And therefore, the whole development is way more serious than it has ever been before. And I think it only will get tougher and tougher. Only the very best athletes can succeed and get a chance. And if you're gifted but not an athlete, then your chances are slim. It's not. I think in the old days it was easier to become one, but I cannot answer that easily because, of course, I wasn't there 40, 50 years ago. And if we look back at these footballers, sometimes on the videos that we do have or on the stories that we hear that they were simply amazing and, yeah, unmatched. but play them in today's context, and let's see if they actually are. Because I tend to say no to that question, but then again, I cannot tell, and nobody can really tell. Celtic is there, but in a different group. Shame. In my group, I want to have 3 teams, of which 2 teams that I like to face, and one of them has to be Celtic. That has to be like mandatory. The other one can be Rangers, could also be like one of the Swiss big teams or a Dutch team. But that's basically it. From the 3 teams, I have 2 demands. One of them has to be Celtic and the other one has to be a nice opponent. Still Swiss or Dutch or whatever. Belgium. Copenhagen, whatever. Anything nice, basically. And then in the other group, of course, then if we have Celtic in our group, then Rangers should be in the other one to give us still a chance to play them too. This one is almost it, but not entirely. The only thing it's got going for itself is Celtic in our group, and in the other group, one nice team. But that's just not enough. That's just not enough. This one looks decent, but it's not it. It's not about the prize money for me. It would be nice if it's the one with the most money. That would definitely benefit me, because I can use all the money that we can get. But for me, it's way more important to get the right opponents in there. Giving you guys a lot of insight as I just talked about, how football has changed. One thing that I want to have out of the way, the discussion, Messi or Ronaldo, it's a really, really tough question to answer, but it's one of the first questions I always get from my viewers or streamers or whatever. I think it is a matter of opinion, first of all. If we look at Messi and Ronaldo, we look at 2 totally different players in terms of playing style. Yes, in their prime they were both wingers. One was the right winger for Barcelona and one was the left winger for Real Madrid. If we look at Messi, and it's an argument that Sir Alex Ferguson has used too, is that he was perfect for Barcelona. Tiki-taka, the team was based on him, revolved around him, and therefore he succeeded. Ooh, this one looks really nice, by the way, guys. Legia Warsaw, interesting opponent. Basel, interesting opponent. And Celtic, and that's one we wanted to face. Then there's Bursaspor, Turkey, Young Boys, Standard League, and Rangers. It's not entirely what I'm looking for, I can't deny that. But at the same time, it is very decent, and I don't think we'll get many better options. You know what we're gonna do? I've got an idea. We're gonna save this to to just this, okay. So we have that one going for us. Let's say we give it another X amount of times for this save for this to see if we can get something better. If not, we're gonna take that one. Okay, so we just talked about Messi, Ronaldo, and I said it's a matter of perspective. Some people might not agree, but please allow me to explain. I mentioned one was the right winger for Barcelona, one was the left winger for Real Madrid, and I think both played for a team which suited them. I think Messi had the most profit of that, because he was like the man. It was all revolved around Barcelona. His style fitted the way of playing. the possession-sided Barcelona in their best years, because when the team had changes of coaches, despite Messi being Messi and being amazing, I feel like not he was not as good as he was before. That he's like almost always great, but I did think he was less good than he was in, of course, the better years there when Barcelona, with the tiki-taka from Guardiola. I think in some way that was better for him. If you look at Ronaldo, I think tiki-taka he could still be playing in and he could still be successful because he is like Haaland, a perfect finisher. He can score from every angle. He can score goals, and he can create goals himself, and that's something Haaland cannot really do. Think of long distance shot, think of dribbles, and that's something Ronaldo had too in his locker. Ronaldo for me is more of the perfect athlete than the best ever footballer. I'm not saying he's not the best ever footballer. I say he could be. It's either him or Messi. And I get it if people say it's Messi, because I think his natural gift is wow. Just to make players seem like they're nothing is just, absolutely insane to humiliate them the way he does. And I can also see that his way of playing is what many people believe how the game should be played. He is, I wouldn't say untouchable, but he is, you cannot get close to him, If we hear all these footballers speaking, and sometimes you wish you were on the pitch with him just, to show how it's done. But yeah, you can't imagine how good he must be. If you just look at him, it's just, sometimes he does these things and you just think, okay, he's not going to get out of this. And then he gets one more and even one more every time. It's just amazing. I can have nothing but respect for the footballing skills that Messi has. If we talk about the person that Messi is, however, it's a different story. It's a different story for me. I'm not too pleased with him as a person. I'm not saying he's a bad person. I'm just saying that I don't like the person that he is. And I think the media has a big influence in how Messi and Ronaldo are portrayed incorrectly nowadays. I think that many people, especially in the media, are not objective. They portray Messi due to his playing style as the ultimate player, because many believe that his way of playing is the way it should be. I believe that too. I can't deny that. But I can see that, that's a matter of opinion. And the people who paint these pictures, I think they don't. Because they put Ronaldo off as an arrogant kind of guy, who's only busy with himself, who's not happy if he doesn't score, a very selfish guy. And in some ways, he is. In some ways, he definitely is. But that doesn't mean that's all he is. If you look at all the good things that he does for people, for humanity, then I would say he's a better person than Messi is. And of course, I'm not here to talk about who's the better person, right? I mean, we're talking about the best football player, not about the best person. If you look at Ronaldo, if you look at the way he trains and takes care of his body, he's a better athlete, but does that make him a better footballer? Not per se. Does it make him a worse footballer? Because does it not apply? It does apply, because his longevity is different. It's different, and I think that's also a factor if you decide who's the best footballer today. If we look at the best football today, I think longevity is a thing too. And Messi went to the States way earlier, whilst Ronaldo went back to the Prem and carried Man United and still had amazing numbers, scored great goals. So for that alone, I think he deserves a lot of respect that he's not getting simply. He's simply not getting. So I think longevity is one thing we have to take account for too, if we look at who's the better footballer. If we look at Ronaldo, he was a tricky winger with not too many goals and assists when he very first started, and he changed his game. He done it in the hardest league, in the Premier League. He went to Spain, challenged Messi, and beat him a couple of times if we talk about goals. I'm not saying in the entire picture, because the entire amount of goals, but I don't think he done much less than Messi, and Messi got more assists because he played in a team where it was also way more into passing. I'm not saying that Ronaldo could not have had assists, but I've seen plenty of videos of Benzema when he was younger where he missed a lot of big chances. I'm not saying that Ronaldo did have less good quality players around him, because that's not entirely fair to Benzema too. But I think it was harder for him to get as many assists due to his playing style, but also due to the circumstances at Real Madrid than it was for Barcelona. It was only after 2015 or so that Real Madrid started to excel in the Champions League and win it year after year, where I think they became much more of a steady group. Then Ronaldo went to Serie A and still got 100 Serie A goals faster than Dybala, I believe, or who else it was. I think it was Dybala who had that, and he was already playing for a few years in Italy and being the big man there, if we look at, his qualities. So for me, in that prospect, that we put it all around those things, I look at those things and I value those. I value those more than some of the qualities that Messi has. I think that longevity, for example, says a lot. Some people say, but Messi won a World Cup and that will make him for always be better than Ronaldo. Yeah, maybe. But also to that, I think that's too black and white. It's too, easy to say that. Because if we look at how Argentina won the World Cup, I think it was very scripted. They got 7 penalties throughout the tournament, or 5 penalties. If we look at the game against Holland, the Netherlands, the handball should have been sent off. The fouls that they made, Argentina, wow, I rarely have seen something so scripted. So I'm not saying that it's entirely scripted. If we look at the final, that was a madness. At first I was like, okay, this is definitely scripted, easy penalty and that. But then France came back and Carlo Muani had a massive chance and Emiliano Martinez a great save. So that final wasn't scripted. Argentina definitely had quality and definitely, done some things really well. But throughout that whole tournament, except for the final, and even the final itself, they got really helped by the referee. And I think it was meant to be that he was supposed to win a World Cup there. Absolutely, absolutely. As rigged as the FIFA is. Because it should have never been hosted in Saudi Arabia due to many circumstances. And still it went there. We all know it was for money. There's a story behind that. So I believe that Messi should always have won that. Without any doubt, you cannot convince me otherwise. I've already made up my mind on that. Nonetheless, I give credit to Messi where it's due. Till, I believe, 2016 or so, he didn't win any national trophies with Argentina. Every time they got beaten, even on the finals with penalties and that, to Chile and some other countries. So at first it was easy for me to say, okay, but, he doesn't win any national trophies, so Ronaldo's better. Ronaldo won the Euros in 2016 with Portugal, but that's also too black and white, because if you're that good, then you can make your country, win whatever. That's not true either. We know how harsh it can be, football. It's not always, a dream to win it. But the thing is, Messi got helped to that World Cup by the referee, by the FIFA. That is clear. That is visible for everyone to see. Everybody who's objective can see that it's a bit odd how easy it was for them to get there. Whilst I don't think Ronaldo had really any advantages. People will say Real Madrid always had advantages, penalties and that. Maybe. I cannot deny that too. I think Real Madrid always had the referee on their side too. Except when they played Barcelona sometimes. Then I feel like Barcelona also got the referee ahead with them too. So, you could argue about that. There's many things you can say. For me personally, due to Ronaldo's incredible achievements, I would say Ronaldo's is the all-time best for me. But I do respect it too if you say Messi's all-time best for me, if you can get proper reasons behind it. However, many people cannot get proper reasons behind it. Saying things like he won the World Cup, I don't think is a proper reason, because his influence in that was only penalties. And of course, a few good moments. The assist against the Netherlands was fantastic, not gonna lie. So there's definitely, some things that he's really done well, but yeah, for me, I think Ronaldo, how he transitioned from a winger with no efficiency to a winger with a lot of goals and assists. For me, he's ahead. I think both players, both Messi and Ronaldo, are basically inverted wingers. Messi goes from the right side more to a number 10 position where he creates a lot, whereas in the middle where he can dribble, where he's free roam, he's on the edge of the box and he can curl balls outside the box into the goal. Where Ronaldo is much more of a number 9 and Messi is much more of a number 10. Ronaldo has to go into the box and that's where he's at his best with his, of course, his finishing abilities, his powered shot, but also his high jumping, his headers. That is something that Messi has less. Of course, we do know this goal against Man United, the header against Van der Sar in the Champions League final. But in general, he has, of course, less heading goals, whilst Ronaldo has many. If you look right with the left foot, I think Ronaldo scored way more goals. So for me, it's a way more finished product. However, for a team to close down the box is easier than to close down the edge around the box, because if you do that, the spaces in between get big enough to combine through, and then there's gaps for teams like Barcelona to profit off. So all with all, I think Messi has more circumstances in his favor to succeed than Ronaldo did. And the proof of that is rather simple. Look at his time at PSG. He wasn't as successful. He wasn't as successful. So that's my explanation to it. There's a lot to it, and I'm not even taking account of all the facts out there. There's maybe more reasons to name why Ronaldo is the better player, but there's also some reasons that I didn't take account of that I'm not aware of right now or whatever to say that Messi is the better one. I think it's a debate that there's no answer on, and I think it's a bit of personal preference too. One thing that I think is more clear than talking about Messi and Ronaldo is talking about the best striker from the last 10 years or so. We've had an era where we had a few good strikers. If we don't take account of, let's say, Ibrahimovic, let's take him out of the equation. For me, he's a category on his own. Because if we look at quality, he can score any sort of goal. And I think especially the aerial ones, the almost, what is it like, taekwondo ones, half volleys, bicycle kicks, powered shots from outside the box. I don't think there's any striker out there who can do what he can do, except for that guy in the Series C, that's Italian striker with a really unique name. He also scored those kind of goals, but for regular strikers, there's no one like Ibrahimovic, and he can score all sorts of goals. If we look at the strikers from the last, let's say, 10 years, there is of course Luis Suarez, who many would argue was the best. There's Karim Benzema, the striker who won the Ballon d'Or. There's Robert Lewandowski, probably a name that's been called by a lot of German and Polish fans, I'd assume. There's Harry Kane. There's Edinson Cavani. There's Sergio Aguero. It's hard to pick the one, and for me, it's between, and this might sound crazy, I think Suarez has to be the best one. Because if we look at his best days at Barcelona, he was, and even at Liverpool, he made that team almost champions with him and Gerrard, just him and Gerrard. That's something that even prime Fernando Torres couldn't do. And Fernando Torres was also an animal. But if you look at the numbers for Suarez at Liverpool, were fantastic. Simply fantastic. But if we look at the goals of him, that is just not talked about enough. Did he score from the halfway line against Norwich? The volleys from long range, that incredible, simply incredible. So for me, Suarez is arguably, the best player if we take Ibrahimovic out of the equation, simply out of the fact that he can score any sort of goal in the whole world, and that I think is a quality that is for a striker maybe the most important thing, Because if we talk about strikers, it's not only about how many goals you score; it's also about your abilities to score, and nobody has the same abilities that he does. However, if we look at the numbers, I think Suarez is an absolute disaster to play against. He is such a menace. He's a complete asshole, but at the same time, he's fantastic. I like South American strikers. I think they're different. They're animals, especially Radamel Falcao before his injury. Also, Edison Cavani, true gentlemen. Um, South American strikers I've got a weak spot for. I cannot deny that. Strikers like Falcao, like Cavani, it's a different breed for me. It's simply a different breed. But if we look at nowadays, and Lewandowski of course is getting a bit older at Barcelona now. But if I talk to a Bayern fan, I haven't spoken any lately, and I was to ask Harry Kane or Lewandowski, I would honestly be shocked if they say Lewandowski is the better striker. Lewandowski has done amazing things for Bayern. In fact, that was the season where he should have won the Ballon d'Or, but suddenly they decided to pull out and not give a Ballon d'Or that year, which was ridiculous. Because if it was Messi, they would have given it. We all know that. We all know that. Um, so I'm a bit pissed with that still. Lewandowski was amazing, truly amazing. But despite being a fantastic goal scorer, his build-up play wasn't that special. If we look at Harry Kane, what he's doing at Bayern München now, I think his abilities to score are not anything less of Robert Lewandowski, I think. And if they are, it's minimal. But it could be minimal. It could be. I'm not saying if there's a better finisher of the two of them, it could be Lewandowski. I'm not saying he is not. However, again, if we look at the build-up play, and I think that is really important for a striker to have, because if you cannot reach a striker, with through balls through the air, because he's not the tallest, he's not a target man, then sometimes he doesn't really have much use. And the way Harry Kane drops in, makes the play, I think that is a quality so rare, and where he is so good at. It's for a striker. There's many aspects that are important. For him to be judged on. I talked about Ibrahimovic and being able to score from any sort of, position, any angle on the field. He can do that. He can do that. He's shown that. He's shown the craziest goals in the craziest circumstances, in the air, volley, whatever, back you. He can do that. He simply unmatched. But I think build-up play is a big thing too, and I have not seen any striker on that top level like Harry Kane. If we look at build-up play, he is out of this world how good he is. So for me, I take Harry Kane any day of the week over Lewandowski, any day of the week. And I'm really upset with Man United not signing Harry Kane a few years back, but they didn't have their priorities straight. And that's how Man United missed out on one of the best strikers of this era. I take, with all respect to Cavani, who I really like, I take Kane over Cavani. I take Kane over Lewandowski. I take Kane over Benzema, and that is diabolical. Is that how you say it? I know many fans, many people who watch my stream now would argue with me. Karim Benzema got his recognition through to that Ballon d'Or as well. He was amazing that season, truly amazing, and I think he absolutely deserved it, and I never thought he would win one, because I saw him in the early 2012, 2013, and he missed big chances. I'm telling you, he missed massive chances. I've seen Gareth Bale compilations where Benzema missed so many chances. I cannot explain to you. So he made an unreal, change there. If we talk Aguero or Kane, it's tough, because Aguero had a bit of that Ibrahimovic ability where he can score from any angle, and with his, smaller posture, but also still strong, still fast. Also a different quality, that South American thing. So for me, Aguero, Harry Kane is like a 50-50. There are moments when I do pick Aguero over Harry Kane. I cannot deny that Aguero was silly how good he was. I really thought when Barcelona signed Suarez that their dream target was Aguero. I really expected him to be the dream target, yeah. Ooh, let's. This is interesting. Look at this. Celtic is in our group, and so are the two Swiss giants. Makes it a bit tough. It's the tournament with the lowest money. Another group there's Brighton, Premier League. There's Copenhagen, who I like to face. There's Legia Warsaw. It's especially my group, which is interesting. I don't know what the other had, because that had Celtic, and but this whole group is interesting. Although I rather had Celtic and Rangers in here. What we're gonna do is we're gonna save this one too. Now I want to look at the other one, and I'm still not happy how crazy it sounds. And as I'm talking a lot, I don't mind, continuing too. So this is Young Boys Basel Celtic. I'm not unhappy there. I'm not unhappy. If we look at Group B, oh, my bad. It's Legia Warsaw, Brighton, Copenhagen, Freiburg. And what was the other one? That must have been this one. That was Legia Warsaw, Basel, Celtic. So we got Legia in our group now, and Young Boys in the other one, but Rangers too, and Standard League too. Difficult. It's a bit similar in it. It's a bit similar. I kind of like this one better because we only get one of the Swiss giants, but Rangers should have been with us in group two. I want to have, so I'm going against what I said because I said if we just have Celtic in that, but I just want that last bit extra there. And yeah, since I'm talking, I mean, I can keep going on, although I'm really tired and I kind of want to go to bed. Cannot deny that. So we were talking about strikers, right? And yeah, if we look a bit further back, if we look at Premier League strikers, there was of course the era of Robin van Persie, my fellow Dutchman, who I think was amazing. Played for Man United um, and Arsenal, and yeah, his technical abilities are wow. He made Man United win the 20th. Is that how I say it? 20th league title. And yeah, there's many videos about it where they said if Scholes or whatever couldn't find him, was it Scholes by the way, or was it Shinji Kagawa and whatever? If they couldn't find him, Carrick, then they don't play. And you've seen it, how good he was. What I always didn't like was in the match against Real Madrid in the Champions League when Real Madrid knocked Man United out. We didn't see much of Van Persie that game, which is a shame because the player that he was at the time, how important he was for Man United. He should have. When Man United struggled a year later in the Europa League, I believe, against Olympiacos or Champions League, he stood up. And Man United had a poor position. I think they lost the first game 1-0 or 2-0, and he made the difference himself. If we look at how many times he put Man United out of the mud with a late goal or whatever, Van Persie was simply fantastic still in his late days. But I can't deny that Aguero or Harry Kane are the better strikers to me. However, if we talk about technical ability, they weren't better. If we talk technical ability only, I think Van Persie was the best one out of the whole list I just named. But that's only that aspect, like that run, that little quality. Oof. Guys, this one is nice too. Copenhagen, I like it. Of course, they're champions of Denmark, so it's hard, but there's Celtic in our group, and there's Ghent, another Belgium team, but it's doable. I think it's doable. And then there's difficult, man. It's so difficult because if only Rangers was with us instead of Ghent, I would have taken it. I think, although then the second group wouldn't be that interesting to me. Getafe shouldn't be in there. What are the odds that you're going to get both Rangers and Celtic in your group? think we should take this one though. I think we should take this one. I just hope we don't face Getafe, but something tells me that Getafe will go through and we'll face them in the semis. And then we probably face Copenhagen again or so in the final. But it's a nice group. Is it any better than the ones we had before? And why is it every time the lowest? Is it really like the poorest teams? Is that really how the game sees it? I like it better than the one where we had Young Boys, Basel and Celtic. I do. I think we're going to take this one. But there's this weird gambling addiction in me that tells me, you could still have something better. You could still, do that. I'm going to save this over for another one, and then I'm going to give it a certain amount of tries. Because it's getting late now, but I kind of, still want it. So, am I going to save it over that one? Because I made a picture of that. That was Basel, Young Boys, and yeah, I'm going to take it over that one. And now I'm going to picture that. So if we had to rate the Premier League strikers from the last 10 years or so, and I'm taking the ones that I just mentioned, not taking Haaland, or I could take Haaland, I take Kane over Haaland, without a doubt. Without a doubt, that's for sure for me. So I'd say Kane, then Haaland. Haaland is definitely, if he's not number one, then he's definitely number two. There's nothing, that can get him off that place. And then I think we're talking Luis Suarez. Suarez or Haaland. It's just coming up in me now what I'm saying, and I think it's tough. Because Haaland, except for a good finisher, he's nothing more than that. But as a finisher, he's the very best, like, cannot get any better, I think. Or almost impossible. But I think I'm sticking with what I'm saying, yeah. Kane, Haaland, Suarez. But on the other hand, Suarez created things on his own. He created things on his own, and that's something we haven't seen with Haaland. It's arguable for me. You could switch them up, place number 2 and 3. For me, number 4 has to be Aguero. How incredible he is behind the other 3 for me. I do take Suarez, Premier League Suarez over Aguero any day. And Aguero I really have him high, but wasn't that good as Suarez for me. After them, who do you get then? I think then we're getting close to Van Persie or Cavani. And yeah, I also have to take Ibrahimovic somewhere in there, don't I? If we talk Premier League only, I still have to take Ibra below Aguero, and I hate to do it because I love Ibrahimovic because of how good he is in his abilities. But if we talk about Premier League, yeah, Ibrahimovic won't agree with me for sure. He won't even like me saying that, so I'll definitely throw my chances out the window there. I personally want to take him over Aguero, but I don't think he is. But the thing is, he also came when he was like 36 to the Prem. If he was younger, he could have been a menace to the Premier League. Also depending on what team he would have been in. So you could argue there too that he is, maybe higher than Aguero. But nah, for me. But if you do that, then you could also argue with Suarez and that. So I really have difficulties placing Ibrahimovic anywhere in there because I just can't measure him the same as the other players since they really played in their best years in the Premier League. So I'm not including Ibrahimovic there, which is a shame. But I simply do not know where to place him in that list. Where do we draw the line that we say, okay, till so far his abilities? So, if we go past the list, It's Kane over Haaland, that's for sure. And if we go further back, we had the time of Thierry Henry even in the Premier League. Where would you even, put him? Because he was insane too. But I have to admit that that was a bit before the time I watched football. So I'm not taking that. I'm only talking about like 2010s and later. And then we get to Van Persie. Could argue Rooney still. Tevez. But strangely enough, as much as I like the Premier League, Tevez was a beast in there. But at Juventus he was still incredible. In fact, the Tevez from Juventus I might even like better than the one from City. And I know how good he was in the Premier League for United, for City. But I think Tevez maybe the Serie A fit him better. So that's why I don't have him that high up this list. I'd say Van Persie over Tevez. Tevez was a menace. He worked hard, scored goals, but I think Van Persie done something different there. I think Van Persie was the better footballer. Portuguese team, Celtic Basel is nice, but the bottom is not that nice, so we're gonna skip that. Okay, now I'm really getting tired. We try to rank these Premier League strikers, but it's getting hard now. I should have like the full list of names in front of me and then, switch it up and see what positions they are at. Okay, I'm gonna say, what should we say? 10 more tries, and then we're gonna, call it a quits. We can always try this next time too, if we really feel like it. Could also do this off camera, and then next time we can start. Maybe that would have been a better thing to do right now, but if you don't feel like watching it anymore, then you can leave it. That was one. 9 more tries. Eight more tries. Seven more tries. Come on, guys. Just give me the right one. That will save me time tomorrow. That doesn't make this all for nothing. 6 more tries. Nah, this is bad. Five more tries. Come on, lads. Almost. 4 more tries. And otherwise, I'm gonna have to figure this out probably myself at some moment. Simulate it on our million times. And then we can start the career mode. But I don't mind doing it tomorrow. I mean, I can do it off camera. And, have a board of food ahead of me, in front of me. And just do it whenever I feel like it. 2 more tries, by the way. Maybe I should do a bit of research in what group I actually want, like fully. But yeah, it's almost certain for me that it's got to be Celtic and Rangers in there. And then the other teams just have to be interesting. This was close though. This was close, but nah. I like the one that we've seen. I really like the one that we've seen. Copenhagen. Copenhagen and Celtic. Was it this one? No, it wasn't that one, no. Was it this one? I think it was this one, right? Yeah. The group itself is nice, another group is very decent. This group is like an 8 and that group, other group was a 7.5, so it's close to what I'm looking for. Yeah. Alright, I'm gonna call it quits. I'll get back to this next episode and then we're gonna see if I can work it out properly.